What's going on is Anton from antondaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. I got some thoughts, right? And, I was thinking about it as I was on my way over into the office today. And what do you guys think about going back to arranged marriages? Would that really be so bad? Before we get into the conversation, make sure you hit a like for the algorithm. I appreciate you. Also, make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Last but not least, if you guys need to get in contact with me for any reason, make sure you email me at antondaniels413@gmail.com. We're about to get started on the Millionaire Morning Show. But there's so many bad things that's happening in society today. And I know that a lot of y'all are already messed up. And so I'm not necessarily talking about this generation or even a generation right behind me, the Generation Z, right? But I'm talking about the people that come after us, because we already ruined. I mean, everything is so messed up all across the board. I see women teachers crashing out. I got a video dropping out about that. Everybody is warned. The gender war is never going to go away, especially with our generation in particular. And so I was thinking about it, and I'm like, if the four things that people are really, really concerned about, and three of them are really, really messing up what's going on in our culture and our society, how do we really solve for that, right? And I think that the way that we solve for it is by having a deeper conversation and not trying to remix and fix what we already got going on, but more importantly, try to remix and fix what our cultural norms are. And is arranged marriage is so bad? Now, I know that there are always cons to every situation. But one of the problems that I see in particular is that when you allow for people to choose for themselves, often at times they choose wrong. Now, you always don't have the naysayers and the people that's operating as, oh my God, what about this situation and that situation? It kind of reminds me of when you say, well, never, be a step crash dummy or never marry a single mother. And then you'll have people in the comments, well, what if the father died and all of that? Listen, that is the anomaly. That is a special circumstance. We don't speak to special circumstances. We know what we're talking about. When we say don't be a step crash dummy, a lot of times we're referring specifically to, what's going on, my friend? How you feel today? I'm doing well. When we say don't be a step crash dummy, a lot of times specifically we're referring to women that choose to have children out of wedlock, right? Or women that leave their families. And then, as a result, once that family breaks up, it winds up being a situation that's not ideal for the children. Or instead of her, taking accountability and going back to her step baby daddy, she just go to the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. And she's looking for somebody to save her instead of being responsible for her situation and her actions. Now, I'm not saying, that that's necessarily applicable to this, but how do you solve for people ultimately choosing wrong? Because the goal is to have strong families, right? And if you want to fix society in a general sense, you need strong households. We know, data tells us that you're much less likely to go to jail, much less likely to need therapy, much less likely to crash out, much less likely to join a gang. You have a significant chance of being greater, or your children have a significant chance of being greater. And if we're not doing it for the people that come after us, what are we doing it for? If the goal is to fix society and to fix the culture, then that means we have to have a deeper conversation about what our cultural norms are. And so what I'm proposing is for us to go back to the drawing board, or not even proposing, I think that that's a strong word. What I'm proposing is that, yes, I am proposing, that we go back to the drawing board and we say, if we have to do it all over again, how would you do it, right? And to be honest with you, my daughter's husband is already seems like it's picked out. Now, I'm not going to say definitively, but like it's already kind of set in stone. And all the people in my family wind up getting married earlier. And it seems like it's worked for us because the result says that it's a good idea for you to get married early and build early. And for men, I'm going to speak to it from both the men's and the women's perspective, and then we're going to go ahead and knock out the show, right? We're going to go and do the Millionaire Morning Show. For the men, the guys that I see that become incredibly successful, their biggest problem is that what value does a woman have to offer to them once they already become successful and they don't have any children out of wedlock, and they don't find themselves under duress, but then at the same time, they want companionship, right? And so how do you protect yourself? Especially when you have women that are advocating for traditional values, but advocating against family court laws that was established at a time where women had no options. They couldn't work, they couldn't choose for themselves, like they couldn't vote and all of that, right? And so now that we have a completely different circumstance, how do you adjust for that? Because the one thing that I hear people say on a regular basis is, well, times is different. The laws ain't, the mindset ain't, the things that men have to subject themselves to isn't. And so how do you protect yourself? And more importantly, forget the protection part. If he has the option to do what he want to do, and he still doesn't have to be under duress, what incentive does he have to then marry and, with a woman that may not be necessarily best for him? Also, on top of that, we got to have an uncomfortable conversation about the options that women have. I know that they lying to y'all and they keep telling y'all, oh, women is making more money than ever. That's bullshit. The rent moratorium up, and people are getting evicted at a crazy rate. Debt is exploding. If Biden wouldn't even have gave some of y'all a leg up on y'all student loans, y'all would be fucked up, right? The median household income has went down. The average that a black woman makes is low as ever. And so where are all of this awesome situations in these women that's actually running it up and getting to the bag and all of that? I don't see it. I don't see them. And so, we got to be honest and be real. And I think that if you really want to have a successful environment, 4 things that people look for today, as far as what they're struggling with and all of the problems that they're dealing with. Companionship goes without saying. Everybody want to be with somebody that love them, all right? Homelessness, you need 2 people at the very least in order to be able to survive, especially with the prices. Inflation, the cost of living is continuing to go up. And then when you talk about the migrant crisis, absolutely. And then last but not least, and which I think is a precursor and a thing that really, really is hurting us on a larger scale, is single parent households, women raising men, don't really understand what it takes in order to be successful, but they continue to find themselves under duress and in a bad situation and making the worst decisions for themselves. So when women have more fathers in the house, regardless of who fault you want to make it, because there's accountability across the board, but more in my opinion on women, because when you have the majority of women having the majority of the children with a smaller percentage of the men, then it's really a problem for solving what the majority is, right? So when you take that into consideration, if more women had people picking their spouses for themselves, and again, I know that there's more to mine out from this, but at the same time, again, you got to solve for the majority and not the minority. If you have more women that's moving a certain type of way, and you have more fathers that were able to help pick spouses for their children, would you have a better chance of marriages lasting longer, households being stronger, wealth being built, less poverty, better decisions, better voting, everything across the board? I'm just asking a question. I'm not saying that this is definitively the only solution or that this is the solution at all. All I'm saying is think about it. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. We're about to go over here and do the Millionaire Morning Show. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'm about to get out of here. I'm out.